I think anyone who grew up playing video games has that one game that really shaped their childhood that they'll never forget. Whether that be Minecraft, Call of Duty, Battlefield, or Oddworld Munch's Odyssey, which is, yeah, pretty hyper-specific, I guess. And chances are you remember a lot of the environments. They almost feel like home in a sense. They're very recognizable to you. I know CS Crack House like the back of my hand. And the thing is about video game environments, whether they be multiplayer maps meant for deathmatch, campaign levels meant for a story, or something that you built to further your progress like in a survival game, they usually serve some kind of purpose. But I was thinking about it, and I can think of one game that really has an exception to that. And that's one of my all-time favorite games, Garry's Mod. This game was my game growing up. This was like my favorite thing ever. I started playing the game around 2013, if I had to guess, and I remember being so scared to download mods, even from the Steam Workshop, because I'd always grown up hearing about, you know, viruses in mods, viruses on the internet. So I would ask my dad to download some mods while I was at school, and I remember coming home one day and he showed me how to do it, and I have this extremely distinct memory of him showing me how to spawn custom entities that he downloaded, and then spawning a million arachnids from Starship Troopers and just saying, have fun! This game absolutely shaped my taste in games, and is probably the reason I'm such a big Arma fan nowadays. It's essentially just adult Garry's Mod. I mean, nowadays I own an army unit. I used to actually run a Dark RP server back in like 2021. I might bring that back, because that was so much fun. But that probably wasn't the only influence Garry's Mod has ever had on me. See, the thing I was mentioning about video game environments applies very differently to Garry's Mod. Garry's Mod's main game mode is Sandbox. Whether that's the most played or not isn't really a question, but everyone knows it is essentially the main game mode. Obviously, Garry's Mod has a million other game modes made by the community, and obviously maps for them do serve their own individual purpose. But when looking at Garry's Mod, a lot of people just let their creativity out through making maps. The same way you would take a paintbrush to a canvas, they instead took their paintbrush to the hammer editor. And it made me start really thinking about the art of making video game maps. So I want to take you on some of the ones that I specifically remember from my childhood, and you guys can decide whether this is a form of artwork or not. But first, we gotta stop at 7-Eleven. This is an absolute classic of a GMOD map, meant specifically for building and goofing around in. It's got a train track that goes around the outside, it's got a little soccer field, and of course, a little 7-Eleven in it. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I haven't gone to 7-Eleven a lot in my life. There aren't very many where I live, and the closest that I ever am to 7-Eleven is the little 7-Eleven Gundam up on my wall. But this is just a cute little convenience store right within your Garry's Mod. You got big vending machines for Kleiner soda, empty shelves to stock with whatever you want, and this is the V5 untextured, well, unretextured version. And, well, you know, of course, the elevator that leads to the basement of every 7-Eleven. They all have one of these if you didn't know. It leads down to this kind of dark, creepy room. I'm gonna be honest, there's not really a whole lot down here. But let's take a look at the version that more people know, which is the retextured one, V6. This version of 7-Eleven is a lot more bright, lively, and absolutely covered in mostly Domo-related advertisements. Do y'all remember Domo? I remember Domo. Look at that, Red Bull and a Monster Energy, 2 for $4. I think I spent $4 on a Red Bull the other day. Jalapeno cheddar cheese sausage for $1.99. Man, not only is this map like a time capsule of GMOD mapping, it's kind of a time capsule of real life. The advertisements, the branding, the pricing, just all of it encapsulated in a little GMOD map. Taking a look at the scary, dark, evil underground that's in every 7-Eleven, they added some scary eyes that used to terrify me as a little kid. Lucky for me, they weren't actually anything. They're just two light entities beyond where you're allowed to walk that just turn off and on every once in a while. Okay. I think just about anyone who played games in this era knows just how groundbreaking the physics were in Half-Life 2. So naturally, people took advantage of that when making Garry's Mod maps to make destructible maps. Maps made out of hundreds of little physics objects that are meant to be blown up, exploded, torn through, just absolutely fun maps. Fizz Temple is one of those maps, and in my opinion, it's one of the best looking ones out there. Everything looks good, it sounds good, the outside of the map is beautiful, and it always had this dead pig in it that kind of freaked me out a little bit. One of the cooler things this map did was it had a little console off to the side that would allow you to select a way for the map to get destroyed outside of your own hand. And in my opinion, this was really cool. I think the mapper really just wanted to flex his skill when it came to making these, and honestly, I dig it. What's up, Domo? I I can't play it, but this also plays Song 2 by Blur while he blows up the entire map. Again, product of its time, absolute time capsule. I love it so much. There were other maps like this from around this time that were super popular. This one on a house in the middle of an island was really, really popular and has been ported to a ton of other games. I see why too. They actually have layers in the walls so you can like shoot off the plaster and get to the inside. It's really cool. It's really cool for the time. The map's one of those things where it's not really good for anything outside of this. Not knocking the map, not by any means, but you're not going to be deathmatching or playing TTT on this, but I have tried many times. If we're being honest, a lot of these maps were just flat out bad, completely carried by the physics destruction thing because that was super novel for the time. Remember, this was like decades before Teardown came out. But let's step away from the violence and destruction for a minute. Garry's Mall is the map that made me want to make this video. It's a collaborative map, meaning different people made these different stores, and that is what makes it so unique in my opinion. It's also just some real of the time humor that I can't even show in the non-patron version. This coffee shop's the only one that's actually a problem, so just make of that what you will. It is a cute little coffee shop though. I don't know how much I agree with the coffee bean wallpaper because it's kind of hideous, but other than that, pretty cool. It's a mall, so obviously it has a pretzel shop, and you can just smell the pretzels through the screen, and there's 2 pretzels getting it on in the back. What y'all know about the Face Punch forums? There were so many internet trends and memes that came from here back in the day, it's really unreal when you start looking back at it. They're shut down now. The actual studio still lives on, and they did just release Sandbox. Leave a comment about what you think about Sandbox, because I don't want to leave my comment about Sandbox. The mirrors in the bathroom don't reflect you. Bug or feature? Leave your prediction down below. You know that game development phrase, gamers don't look up? Well, I look up, and it's beautiful. I have never seen this much detail put into the ceiling of a Garry's Mod map. I know that's really specific, but I feel like it's worth noting. I dig the aesthetic of the Black Factory. I don't know what this store is really trying to sell me in this mall, but it's kind of disgusting and vile looking. It has that kind of grungy aesthetic that Half-Life 2, specifically the Half-Life 2 beta had. I guess you could say this entire store is very dark and gritty. New age hippie stuff, oh yeah! I've never been to a mall that doesn't have some kind of rock store that try and sell you these gems that you can just rub on your face that takes away your aging or something like that. I wouldn't mind if they weren't like $30 per pretty rock, and it turns out they're just like, you know, you walk outside, you find them if you look hard enough. I don't mind rock stores. I mind overpriced rock stores. Now I feel like an old man yelling at clouds. This is probably the nicest Starbucks I've ever seen. I haven't been in many Starbuckses, but probably the best virtual Starbucks I've ever been in. Like, this actually feels kind of cozy, and I would probably buy a very overpriced drink from here. They even took the time to model out the, like, handicap accessible stuff. That's dedication, man. I respect that. If you want to get into the staff-only room, you have to solve the riddle. He wears a red hat, has a white beard, and a blue coat. We'll keep an eye out for him. I know it might seem like I'm just going store to store explaining every aspect of this map, but like, how am I not supposed to do that? Every single one of these stores is made by a completely different mapper. They all have different feels to them. And I remember this map like the back of my hand, and I haven't played it in like 10 years, man. Cereal Smooth is just such a cozy little cereal store, which is a just plain silly sentence to say out loud. They got that creepy Link statue in the corner, so that's cool too. I love going to music stores and malls because they're either awful or goated. This one, however, real product of the time, with Jay Dilla and the Beastie Boys, and basically nothing else. Not even a thing of vinyls I can crawl through, man. Pathetic. World's most empty Verizon store. Man, look at that desktop. Crescent Limited Hobbies is the thing that's stuck in my mind for over a decade since I played this map. This area is just packed with custom assets, making it feel like a real hobby shop. It's got the little train running around the whole store, tons of stuff in boxes, tons of stuff displayed, a good variety of different model kits, even a train set that they're building on the desk, giving you the impression that they were building that as this map was captured, if that makes sense. It's so natural feeling. Only thing it's missing is the wall of Warhammer stuff to insinuate that they're going out of business. My local airsoft shop has one. I found this little note saying to visit every store by this locked door. Let's go do that. Let's see what's in there. This here leads to the inevitable scary evil secret part of the map, where once you go down this hallway, you can find a bunch of dev screenshots of the map. Well, rather, the maps while they were in development and getting prepared to be put into the mall. You also have a big board full of credits of textures, sound, stuff like that, as well as some of the maps that didn't quite make it to the mall. I love these rooms in maps. I think it's the coolest thing ever. I love seeing the progress screenshots of how these maps developed, how far they got, and Oh, hey, you kind of matched the description to someone I'm looking for. That was a pretty cool Easter egg. I wonder what the Easter egg in the Starbucks is going to give me after I looked for this little gnome all over the map. And it's just a credits picture. Cool. I love Garry Small, and I'm glad some people still keep up the tradition of collaborative maps in Garry's Mod, and I might take a look at them in the future, to be honest. You thought that was time-consuming? Let's explore the galaxy! Space Build is a game mode that I never really could get into, and me and my friends would just play the Space Build maps with, like, WAC helicopters and stuff like that. It was stupid, but it's still a really cool concept. If you're not familiar, Space Build maps all have these little planets that you can enter and explore and run around on. Sometimes they have an objective, like in Omen V2, this absolute classic map that I'm playing for this video. You're meant to use the Space Build game mode, which has all kinds of fancy mechanics, but we're gonna build our own spaceship, because it's Garry's Mod, you build anything. So here's our spaceship. And to the stars we go. Don't worry, I'm not going to explain every single planet because, to be honest, I want you to experience this map for yourself. So why are we going to these planets? Well, we need to collect these little artifacts to run that weird little device we found on Tiny Earth. Going for a controlled landing, we land on this strange little desert planet. You gotta figure out how to get here for yourself, but after finding a cave and heading deep below the surface, I found the artifact. Yeah, that actually got me. That's kind of what to expect from finding all these artifacts, and to be honest, I don't want to take away the experience of actually hunting these down and finding them for yourself. I recommend you just boot up the map and do it yourself, because 1, it's free, and 2, it's a lot of fun with your friends. Bringing them all back here, you activate this weird device, and spoilers if you're gonna play the map for yourself. The device directly links to this big teleporter up in the sky, and if we jump through it, pretty cool. Gooniverse is another map that I remember, mainly for its skybox, but to be honest, I only really wanted to talk about it because of the name and this little space station that it's got that I would always break by accident. Pretty cool. Scaling things back a little bit, you know, from outer space, Nightmare Church is a map that I absolutely love. The attention to detail in this map is like none other. They describe it as a free roam horror experience, meaning you're not going through a bunch of corridors getting jump scared, you don't really have an end goal. You have this map full of detail, full of things to see and experience that you're kind of just meant to run around and look at. It's like a virtual interactive haunted house, and I absolutely love that idea. I rarely see that being done anywhere else outside of right here. The map has a kind of mid-2010s horror to it. It's not quite the newer, more psychological styled horror that you see nowadays, you know, Silent Hill, Cry of Fear, My House, Pink Valley, Resident Evil, that kind of thing. The more in-your-head type of horror. It's the much more literal type. Dim, candlelit rooms, pumpkins, skulls, just fountains of blood. I absolutely adore the aesthetic of this. And while it might not be a super in-depth horror experience, it'll still get you sometimes. See? Growing up, going to Spirit Halloween was one of my favorite yearly occasions. I just love seeing all of the decorations, all the animatronics. It just had that kind of vibe to it. There was this one website that I used to look at all the time. It was like a premium Halloween animatronic website. Way back in the day. I really wish I could find it because it had so many cool things on it. They had some witch on a broom that would fly like 20 feet in the air with a big hydraulic arm. It was the coolest thing ever. This map reminds me of that time period of Halloween decorations where things were just overly gory for no reason. But because it doesn't take itself seriously and it's full of like other internet horror stuff, it works so well. It's the same reason I like games like Outlast, the first one. Yeah, it took itself kinda seriously, but that game was just so insanely over the top when it came to its environments and some of its jump scares and shocks and whatnot, that in my opinion, it kinda works. I don't know, I'm not a huge fan of a lot of the modern horror tropes that we're seeing nowadays, you know, the lost footage, found footage, back rooms, liminal space kind of thing. It was cool for like maybe a year or two, now I'm really just sick of it. But if we want to talk about horror trends that went on for way too long, oh, I gotcha. Garry's Mod is actually the game that introduced me to the Five Nights at Freddy's series back in 2014 when the first game came out, and not long after that, this map came out. The map is just called Freddy Fazbear Pizza, and it's an absolute classic in the Gmod space. It's a pretty decent recreation of the map from the first game. Granted, you don't get to see a lot of the areas from the first game, but the map does a pretty good job at interpreting them. Has its own custom phone guy call, and an actual button to start the map, so if you want to just use it for making scenes or whatever, you can do that. Five Nights at Freddy's absolutely took over Garry's Mod when the game came out. I think everyone knows how big of a hit that game was, especially on the internet, but I think Garry's Mod definitely found a huge majority of that fan base. I won't pretend I wasn't really a fan. I do remember watching lore videos back about the first game and even the second game, because that's back when there was barely a cohesive story that anyone could put together. I kind of stopped caring about the franchise around the fourth game, and by looking around today, it seems like a lot of the OG fans don't really care for the series anymore. And to be fair, after looking at some of the recent games, I can kind of see why. There were definitely a lot more Five Nights at Freddy's maps for Garry's Mod. Some were playable, like this one, and others are meant for roleplay, and shockingly enough, Five Nights at Freddy's roleplay is still somewhat active in Garry's Mod, and believe it or not, it doesn't seem to have the best community. But these maps are certainly something. It's cool to look back at how popular this franchise was in Garry's Mod. That scared me so bad, and I'm doing the voiceover right now. That wasn't even live. I got scared by it twice. Let's take a step back from the horror and talk about the AIDS epidemic. Sweet Bro and Hella Jeff was a map that took me ages to find, because it makes no sense, has no coherence, and it's just awful, man. I remember playing this map in TTT ages ago with my friends, and we all thought it was just the worst thing ever. But it stuck in my mind, mainly just because of the colors, the weird drawings, the just random memes everywhere. For the longest time, I genuinely thought this was just made by some idiot kids who were like, hey man, look at this map I made, isn't it stupid? But no, it's based off of some internet comic called Sweet Bro and Hella Jeff. It was popular like maybe 10 years ago. Don't touch the joke boxes, just for your own good. Despite the map not being cohesive or really thought out at all, it unfortunately plays pretty good in TTT, which is really upsetting because it plays better than anything I've ever made for this game. Part of the benefits to making a video game map to show off whatever you're trying to show off is the fact that you're making an explorable 3D environment. Now, whether that explorable 3D environment is just a complete eyesore like this one, yeah, that's one thing. Surrealist maps have kind of made a revival in Garry's Mod, obviously taking themselves a bit more seriously nowadays with more inspiration from liminal spaces and whatnot, but with this map, it's like looking into the mind of the creator after the creator had some kind of TBI. But at the same time, it doesn't feel right saying that because the map has aspects that show whoever made this is a somewhat experienced mapper. Like, yeah, it looks hideous, but the guy who made this clearly knows what he's doing to an extent. Have you ever met someone who, like, you know they're a genius, but they just act like the stupidest person you've ever met? That's what this is like. Like, you can tell there's a genuine talented mapper who made this, but he made Sweet Bro and Hella Jeff. If you and your friends are looking for a halfway decent Trouble in Terrorist Town map to play, I actually kinda have to recommend this one. There's a lot of Trouble in Terrorist Town maps I could talk about, but honestly, I might have to save that for its own video just because I played so much of that game mode. The creators of this went on to go make a sequel in 2015, but honestly, I didn't really play that one, and in my opinion, it relies a little bit too much on flashing lights and just coating the walls in stupid memes. Not a terrible map. Granted, it's a sequel to this map, but you know. Honestly, this whole map feels really inspired, or at least reminds me of that one map, Horrible Hotel. I don't remember if it was originally a TF2 or a Counter-Strike source map, and to be honest, I don't really want to talk about a bunch of maps that were ported from other games to Garry's Mod, just because if we did that, I'd be here all day, and I could milk another video out of that. But Horrible Hotel is just the perfect encapsulation of that era of internet humor, and I don't think another map comes close to it. If you want to know how old we're talking, Pools Closed and 4chan Party Van. That's how old we're talking. Oh, and Duck Roll. I don't even think half of you are old enough to know what Duck Roll means. I never played this in TF2, so I can't really say how well it would play. But looking at it, the whole map is essentially just a big hotel with every room filled with memes. It is worth mentioning the guy who made this map, Xenon, made some other really iconic maps for TF2, like Cyberpunk and Mario Kart, like that Mario Kart. The one from the Kitty0706 video, that one. So whether the dude expected it or knows it, he kinda had a huge hand in internet history. Seeing a music room in a map in 2026 is just so alien nowadays. It's such a funny concept to me that we used to put rooms that just played music at a button press, just bloating the file size of the map for no reason. I imagine this map would actually play pretty good in TTT, but I don't think there's an actual version that's built for TTT, you know, with like weapon spawns and traps and stuff, so honestly, if I find the time, I might make that. But when I was playing this map for this video, it really reminded me of one map in particular, and it's one of my favorite video game maps of all time, and that's Blah by Nipper. Nipper might just be my favorite mapper of all time, and I understand that most of his maps were made for Counter-Strike, and I just said I didn't want to cover maps made for other games, but with the topic of the video, I feel like I have to talk about this map. This one in particular, because not only does it play pretty well in Counter-Strike, it is also just an artistic masterpiece of mapping. From every single aspect of this map, it's just unique and fascinating the whole time. I love it. There's callbacks to his other maps like Crazy Tank, and he's still active today, porting some of his maps over to CS2. Just such an amazing map. I love it. The Matrix is another one of those maps where it might not play the best if it's meant to be played a specific way, but for exploring it, it's great. If you actually couldn't tell by the name, the map is heavily inspired from environments from the movie The Matrix, and it does it extremely well for what the Source engine can do. Like, I love this little office area. I don't want to be that guy who's like, dude, the Source engine makes me feel like I'm in a real place, but dude, the Source engine makes me feel like I'm in a real place. And the little details reminding you that this is a Matrix map, I just love it. It's so good. And it's got these little warbly effects that you can jump through that takes you to a completely different part of the map. And these all intersect with each other in some way, so the whole map is just these little portals that you jump through leading to all these different places. It's so cool. This little apartment area with the lighting and the texturing just seems like something you'd see in a modern Source map, which sounds silly if you didn't really grow up with these games, I guess. And then you walk through a wall and you're in a dojo and it's all and it's low gravity, and it's so detailed, and the textures have little ones and zeros in them. It's so good! Seriously, when I downloaded this map, I didn't even want to touch it, because I just had so many memories of playing this map when I was a little kid. It just holds up so well. I might seem like I'm overreacting, but if you didn't grow up playing games like Garry's Mod, it's really hard to explain. It's just such a wild feeling, and I'm just now wondering if I can port this map to Double Action Boogaloo. I'm gonna try that. I gotta try that. Okay, sorry, let's calm it down a little. Hillscape is an interesting one. It's a sandbox map, meaning it's made for two things: building and goofing. It features all these little teleporters that'll lead you to different areas of the map, and the whole map kind of fits into this vibe of Sensibly nonsensical, if that makes sense. Look at this house. If I wanted to get into my house, I'd have to stop in the middle of a road, right around a blind corner, then turn onto the ramp that gets into my house that is directly above a highway for some reason. It makes no sense, but that's why it's in Garry's Mod. That's why it's interesting. It's also a really pretty house on the inside. There's a cute little castle on the side of a hill. It even overlooks Spawn. I love this cute little town. I don't know why it has missing textures on the windows. I have literally every Source game mounted, but whatever. The houses inside are just so adorable. They feel like actual houses, more than most Dark RP maps can boast. For my European viewers, most Americans actually have a picture of Abe Lincoln mounted on their wall. You can even fly all the way up to the moon, and it has lower gravity. It's so cool. This whole map feels like the developer of it just sat down and thought, what kooky little thing can I add to this? And then added it. Which makes sense when you think about it, because the guy who made this also made the 7-Eleven map that I talked about earlier. Classic map. I absolutely love this one. Now let's get gross. You are a virus inside Joe is just plain disgusting. Just listen to it. This is technically a zombie survival map, but I'd be amiss if I didn't cover it. This map tried to model the internals of a human body, and it did not do amazingly. I don't know if I have any viewers that are med students, but you gotta tell me if this is accurate or not. The idea is that you'd be playing in the veins and the intestines and, you know, running around with blood cells, listening to this disgusting water flowing sound the entire time, jumping around in the stomach acid, parkouring on just a lot of bones, honestly. This guy's just eating a skeleton. And if you've played this map, you already know what I gotta mention. Yes, if you keep crawling through his intestines, there is a way you can escape Joe. I don't know if I can even show that on YouTube in the uncensored version, dude. I'm not even gonna take the chance. Such an awful detail, and it really makes me wonder what that running water sound was. Hats off to the modder, though. You have maybe one of the most unique zombie survival maps ever made. But I think we should brighten things up a little. Free City Plaza is an extremely Mirror's Edge inspired map. These were huge back in the day, especially around the time Mirror's Edge came out. You had that whole craze of free running. Not parkour, free running. Big difference. And that's kind of actually come back to Garry's mod, funny enough, in the form of the game mode Beat Run. Pretty popular game mode, a lot of people seem to enjoy it. I remember there was a controversy a few years ago because it was originally paid, and then people repackaged it, and then it had like a backdoor or something. It was just a whole mess. Seems good nowadays. I haven't done a lot of research into it, so I'm not going to give a definitive answer. For this video, I'm using Wheatley's parkour to be accurate to the 2015 era of Garry's mod. But these maps were super cool back then. Even if we didn't really have a goated parkour mod like Beat Run, it was still a pretty fun era. Century Plaza has a very similar aesthetic. While it's not really a parkour map, it still kind of has that look, that Mirror's Edge look, you know what I mean? There's bright highlights on areas. It looks so good. I love it. I especially love this little hotel area. Like, this map wasn't made as a roleplay map. You aren't really meant to use these for much of anything, but it's just built out really well. I like it. It also has the secret back in this room. If you flush the toilet, you open up to this little underground area with nothing in it. Hometown 1999 is certainly an older map for this game. I don't think it has an original upload on the workshop, meaning the guy who made it didn't actually upload it, so it was probably from garrysmod.org and then just re-uploaded. But the map is pretty unique in my opinion. It's got all these little shops you can run around in, some custom modeled cars, as well as this apartment block in the middle. Really cozy little map. If we head into the theater, we can see that they're screening Choco Cop 2 and James Bondage. I don't think I want to watch either of those. The map's got this nice little combine police station next door, usually something reserved for roleplay maps. And in the back, it's got these little riot shields made out of brushes in the hammer editor, and they're still in that like combine force field style. That's so cool. That's such a cool little detail. Oh, and these custom cars, they're actually remodeled Jeeps. Kinda. See, I think this is just an issue of the map being old, but they can't turn, so they just kind of go forward and backwards. Pretty funny. It's also got this cool little gym. Again, everything's made out of brushes in the hammer editor. It's so cute. I love it. Fun fact, 78% of the money earned from my channel is going towards building a gym in my basement. So if you're a channel member, thank you. If you're not a channel member, then you could have seen this video early, uncensored, and with more content. Now don't you feel stupid? Moving on. This little game store is very reminiscent to the one I covered earlier. Like seriously, same games, same graphics cards, and same name, Pulsar Computers. Pretty cool, and I love looking at this old box art. It had so much more life than they do nowadays. When I was trying to find this map for the video, I thought I was going insane. Because I remember the cars, but I also remember every building in the apartment being enterable. I also remember there being like a bank or something like that. Turns out, I'm thinking of Hometown 2000. A map that's practically a duplicate of the one I just covered, but with less detail. No cars, a couple more enterable buildings, but a really stripped down theater, police station. It just feels like a worse version of 99. What y'all know about War of the Servers? But if this was meant as a roleplay map, then I suppose we gotta talk about tits. RP Downtown Tits was made for a server called Tits RP. I've never played it, never really heard of it, but I can see why this is the most popular re-upload of this map. It's a remake of the original RP Downtown, which many of you know, I'm sure, as it's just an absolute staple of GMOD history and the history of the Dark RP game mode. For the same reason I want to save TTT maps for their own thing, right? Dark RP maps are a whole nother beast of their own, and I think looking at old and new ones in one video would be a really cool idea. And speaking of old and new, this map came out in 2017, which is a little more new than most of the maps I'm talking about, so why am I talking about it? Well, back in 2020, this was the map I hosted my Dark RP server on. add-on. The objectively bad version of it, with a bunch of pirated stuff from GMOD store. Next to no rules. And it was awful. It was so bad. A couple years later, I tried again, still having no semblance of, you know, what made a Dark RP server fun. Like, whose idea was it to have FPV drones? That was probably my idea. I was discussing it with some friends and we were thinking about running it back with a more mid-2000s style. Not full of, you know, 100 gigabytes worth of add-ons, very simple, with a focus on having fun. If that's something you're interested in, leave a comment or join our Discord server, or both. But I gotta mention this other map, because if we're talking about cities, I gotta talk about the big one. Now I think everyone knows GM Big City. I've specifically gone out of my way to not talk about the crazy popular maps for this game that everyone's already seen, because no one wants to see that again. Downtown, I think, was the most popular one I did, but I have a lot of specific memories of the variants of Big City. Like, Big City improved. It removed the jump scare at Cafe Baltic, it added some interiors to buildings, and a nice sheen on some of the buildings. And that's how a lot of these are. There's not a ton I can really talk about, so you know what? This is how we're gonna do it. Big City Sideways is sideways. Big City Upside Down is upside down. Big City Silent Hill is, well, Silent Hill. But my favorite out of all of these variants is ZMod Big City. I spent so much time building scenes and scenarios on this map, it's just insane. It's a ruined, destroyed version of Big City, and it's so incredibly well made. It was uploaded in 2014, never updated, never got a sequel, and is the only variation of Big City like this. It's so good. But if we're gonna talk about the maps that are crazy popular, I think I gotta talk about the most popular one, GM Construct. What is there to say about GM Construct that hasn't been said a million times? I know every detail of this map like the back of my hand. It has been with me for over a decade, close to half my life. From the basement to the lake, the secret room under the stairs, and that one secret in the dark room that nobody really knows about, the little button that leads you to the underground facility. It's such a classic map. I remember being a little kid, maybe not even 10 years old, playing with Oddworld ragdolls for the first time because I didn't know that there was such a thing as an add-on that wasn't an NPC, which sounds stupid in hindsight, but I learned the ins and outs of just about everything when it came to how mods worked in this game. You know, if a little TF2 item said Hex in the name, then it was probably like just a model, little fan-made thing. Didn't take me long to discover stuff like the M9K weapon base, all those weapons, just absolute classic of that time with Garry's mod. Most of my time on this game had been in single player. Getting home from school, immediately jumping onto the workshop to go download a big list of mods, and just never uninstalling them, just letting them pile up over time. To the point where I remember being maybe like, I don't know, maybe 10 years old, and my Garry's mod was just so broken, like sounds would just repeat over each other, your character would like permanently die if you died. And I had to go to my dad because he knows computers and be like, hey man, how do you fix this? And he was just appalled by how many mods I had installed. In my mind, I have Garry's mod slotted right next to Minecraft. I played them at around the same time in my life for the very first time, and briefly after moving to PC from console, because yeah, I played Minecraft on console first. That's when I was introduced to Minecraft mods through YouTube and stuff like that. And through those YouTubers who would make Minecraft mod videos, some of them did Garry's mod. And that is how I learned about Garry's mod for the very first time. I was like, this game looks like so much fun. Probably 13 years later, good lord, I have 5,443 hours on this game. This game, despite what you might think of it, whether you love it or you hate it or it's just not your thing, made up a good chunk of my life. And these maps, these environments, are burned into my head to the point where I still knew my way around them when I went back to record for this video. And that's why I think these maps are like a form of art. That might be a little dramatic for the Skibbity Toilet game, to be honest. But I'm sure you understand what I'm saying, especially if you grew up with this game or just have really fond memories of playing it. I mentioned towards the beginning that I've kind of moved away from Garry's mod more onto Arma 3, and yeah, that is kind of true. I really don't play Sandbox anymore. But this is still a game I come back to a lot. It's almost like a comfort game of sorts, like especially with multiplayer. I know Garry's mod's multiplayer is known for being just awful, but it has a certain charm that I I absolutely love. Especially Homigrad. When I had RSV last year, you would find me in the Zgrad servers literally all day. But it also just kind of comes down to the fact that I don't really have all the time in the world to play video games anymore. Like, I'm an adult now. Even when I started this channel, if you go all the way back, don't go all the way back. I was still in, like, school. I think probably my earliest videos were uploaded my freshman year of high school, if I had to guess. But, you know, I try to actually have a career now, you know? Obviously, it's not YouTube, but when you only have a couple hours a day to hop on the game, if any at all, it's usually the one that I designate exactly 3 hours a week to play. But I don't think that means that you shouldn't think about your times with these games. I don't think you should be ashamed of enjoying games that you might not enjoy anymore. In fact, I think you should make a video like this. You, the viewer. It doesn't have to be anything crazy special. It doesn't even have to be a well-made video. Just make something related to a game or a hobby you used to enjoy, something that you want to immortalize through YouTube. Earlier this year, I lost my C drive. The thing just went fully belly up and corrupted. That C drive had maybe 8 years worth of screenshots, videos, pictures, Doom WODs, maps I've made, unreleased videos, just general memories on it, gone. And that's part of my reason for making this video, is that maybe I wouldn't have released that video, but maybe I would have uploaded those Doom WODs. If I didn't upload them, maybe I would have recorded footage of them. Maybe there'd be some kind of mark of those existing on the internet. And so one day, if the maps in this video are taken down, they're deleted, they're gone, never to find an archive of it again, it's here, in this video, on YouTube's servers, forever. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I hope I tickled some of your nostalgia bones. Never mind. I'm not gonna say that again. This is the first video I made in a while that's been source related, and the first one in a while that isn't Arma related. I mean, hey, if you guys want a sequel to Wonderful World of GMOD game modes that I promised you like 3 years ago, yeah, I can do that too. I'd be happy to. I love making these videos, so leave a comment if you want to see more Dark RP maps, TTT stuff, or if you want to see me take a look at some modern GMOD maps, because we've had like, what, 23 years to get good with the hammer editor? Stuff's gotten really impressive, man. But I'm gonna sign off here. Go join the Discord in the link in the description. We don't use it for anything, and I will see you all in the next video.